Okay, hello everyone and welcome to yet another video for our YouTube channel, David Bowie Glamour. And today I'm going to be looking through Melody Maker, and these are all original Melody Maker covers from the early 70s. This one starts it all off, and this is July the 1st, 1972, which was actually when I saw David Bowie in my local town, July the 1st, 1972, when he played Weston-super-Mare, the Winter Gardens actually. And halfway through that gig, interestingly, the fire alarm went off and everybody was evacuated, and then we all had to come back in halfway through, and a lot more people came in halfway through than were there originally, I can tell you that. So this is a cover, as I said, July the 1st, 1972, with Bowie on the front, and really there was any excuse to put Bowie on the front cover after about this date. You can't believe really how massive he was for those younger fans out there. Who don't know this, but in 1970s Bowie was absolutely everywhere, from about 72 certainly up to about 78. Any excuse to put David Bowie on the cover of a magazine or newspaper was taken. So this is about Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust, Bowie's new album, and it's jumped into the Melody Maker chart at number 19, and his current tour of Britain is pulling in all the boys and girls. 1,000 people had to be turned away from Croydon's Greyhound on Sunday, and there's a review of the gig which is here, and it's that long, and I'm now going to read this to you because I thought this gig review was a bit different really, so that's why I'm now going to read it to you, and I'm sorry if I bore you, but I'll try not to. So the headline is Bowie Waiting for the Man. It was raining the night Jim met Phil. They were total strangers to each other, but Phil had asked Jim for a cigarette, and well, one thing led to another. They'd become very good friends. Phil still recalls how Jim's hand had trembled though. They'd gone along to see David Bowie in Dunstable. Great fans of Bowie they were, and Jim almost had to pinch himself when he first heard such a grand person was actually coming to that place. He hated that place, but privately his mother confided that he found it difficult to make friends at work. That Wednesday night he was there, though clutching his new copy of the David Bowie Ziggy Stardust album, which he hoped David would autograph after the show. He was wearing his red scarf flung nonchalantly over his shoulder and his red platform boots. His hair was long down the back, but fairly short on top, so it stuck up when he brushed his fingers through it. He hated that it was dark brown. He promised himself that when he eventually split to London, he'd have it done bright blonde. He had just turned 19 years of age. Phil was one of the first to arrive at the Civic Hall. He'd stood in the queue for an hour and a half to get a ticket, so when he was inside he rushed quickly to the front and stood beneath the stage. He waited patiently while the Flaming Groovies went through their set. He was to say later, in fact, that they were quite super, but after all he'd really come to see David, hadn't he? He was so excited, Phil can't remember exactly what Bowie came out wearing, but towards the end of the performance it was certain that the outfit was white satin shirt and trousers, the legs tucked into glistening thick-soled white boots. He looked like Vogue's idea of what the well-dressed astronaut would be. Dare it be said, a delicious space oddity. A lesser hunk of glamour might have been upstaged by guitarist Mick Ronson with his maroon sequin jacket, red lipstick and hair dyed peroxide as a 50s starlet. But through oohs and ahs were directed his way, teenage hearts went fluttering out to David. For can anything dim the splendour of this ravishing creature whom all Britain is learning to love? The newspapers were to report subsequently that his performance was not one of the major turning points in David Bowie's incredible success. The man from the United Artists records, who knows what he likes, was quite sure of that. He said afterwards that David Bowie was definitely the biggest thing around. To those who'd seen his act before this year, the format was not new. That is to say, he started the set rocking like a bitch before cooling down somewhat with changes. The song of mixed tempos, and then the dark, apocalyptic message of 5 years, which owes something lyrically to Lou Reed. I think I saw you in an ice cream parlour drinking milkshakes cold and long. And then the acoustic passages with Mick Ronson, Space Oddity and Andy Warhol, culminating in a solo version of Port of Amsterdam, an account of rough trade as delightfully coarse as navy blue serge. Now, we're into this last bit now, so we're nearly on the home straight, everybody. Now came some golden oldies for you, he announced for the number, as written by Jack Bruce and Pete Brown. All his fans, of course, needed no telling. I Feel Free ripping out of the stereo PA system, choreographed by the flickering strobe lighting. It's not what you do, it's the way that you do it. My, how they clapped and whistled. The band returned for an encore. It was I'm Waiting for the Man. But something rather strange was happening up there on the stage. During the instrumental break, Bowie began chasing Ronson around the stage, hustling him, trying to press his body close. The attendants at the exits looked twice to see if they could believe their eyes. The teenage chic men knew, but the little girls didn't understand. Jesus, it had happened. It should be recorded that the first act of fellatio on a musical instrument in the British Isles took place in Dunstable Civic Hall. How do you top that? You don't. You get off stage. After the show was over, scores of people were still milling around. Over the loudspeaker system, Hunky Dory was playing. The autograph hunters were crowding around the dressing room. But he wasn't seen to emerge. Moist-eyed boys still hung around after a while. Jim and Phil left the place together. That's a gig review by Michael Watts, and I think one of the best ones I've ever read. It's a bit different, and I really like that. Okay, so we're going to this. Oh, by the way, this cutting here is about the Glastonbury Fair album. This was I think it was a triple album set, and Bowie donated a track to it. He donated Superman, acoustic version of the Superman. And I can remember when I was about 17, 18, it used to be played in our common room at college all the time. Hawkwind Silver Machine was also on it, I remember, and that was played to death as well. So those two tracks particularly. Very rare piece of vinyl now, that one. So if you see the Glastonbury Fair album, triple album, I would buy it if I were you. So just moving on, it's now December the 23rd, 1972, and we've got another Bowie cover there. And this is basically Melody Maker telling us all that he was the man of 1972. He tops an incredible 12 months by seeing his Ziggy Stardust album named as the Melody Maker Pop Album of the Year. And it tells us a bit more about his tour as well. And about some extra dates. And here's Melody Maker's albums of the year. Pop album of the year is Ziggy Stardust, which is hardly surprising really. And it says, this is Bowie's music really. He doesn't linger, he's melodic, but he's also bitchy. And he writes songs that are indeed very attractive and pleasingly simple. This is a bit of a throwaway page. This is a Christmas written pantomime that featured in Melody Maker. Obviously you can see Mark Bolan, Noddy Holder of Slade, and this is David Bowie here, and it's just a bit of a farce, but I thought I'd keep it anyway, and it's called Raves in the Wood. And then of course the biggie where David Bowie and the Spiders wish everyone a happy Christmas. It must have cost them quite a lot of money to put that in the centre pages of Melody Maker. And there you are. There's some of the dates he's going to play. And the announcement of saying, please bring a toy with you to the Rainbow Theatre on Christmas Eve. It will be given to a children's home. And as probably some of you know, David Bowie's dad was involved with Dr. Barnardo's, so it was given to them. And people did take toys along. So that's quite a rare piece, I think, these days. And as I said, would have cost them a lot of money to put that in the centre pages of Melody Maker. And then we move on to 1973. This is January the 24th. And strangely, they got a bit of a sniff about it being Bowie's last tour, which wasn't strictly true, of course, although it was the last time we would see Ziggy on that tour, because in July 73, of course, he retired Aladdin Sane, or Ziggy Stardust, depending on how you look at it. But they may have had a bit of information there. And the article with it is Stranger in a Strange Land, and they're telling us that it's the title of his new album. And it's more spacey than anything he has done before. And he's given an exclusive preview of the album, and needless to say, gets a great review.